Okay. Thank you. Hello, thank you so much for coming to our session entitled Water Partnership for Collective Action, Bridging Borders Between Stakeholders. My name is Yumiko Asayama, Chief Manager of Japan Water Forum. Now, I represent as the Secretariat of NoWNET. And we try to in this session we try to explore the crucial role of water partnership in driving impactful and coordinated response to water challenge across local, national, and global scale. And now I would like to introduce what is NoWNET. NoWNET called Northern Water Partnership. Northern Water Partnership consists of these 11 organizations in Europe, Korea, and Japan, together with Global Water Partnership, World Water Council, Swedish Water Partnership kindly also be our partner of NoWNET. And NoWNET is a network of country-level multi-stakeholder water partnership together with government, private sector, academics, NGO, civil society, and so on to exchange experience and good practice to address water challenge and interacting with multi-stakeholders. As you know, water issue is huge, so only government cannot solve the issue, and only NGO also cannot do anything. That's why we try to work together with various multi-partnerships, and our NGO partner will kindly in taking the role to connect the dots of every stakeholder, every vertically oriented stakeholder to work together to address lots of challenge by mobilizing resources, human resources, not only within their own country. If necessary, we also try to mobilize resources, human expertise from overseas. Yes. By doing so, we learn what each organization are doing, how they are doing, and how they are getting funding. We learn each other through these organizing a kind of network meeting. Then we share the experience to solve the organizational and operational issue we face. And we also work together to solve the issue, particularly faced in developing countries. Northern Water Partnership is all belonging to a kind of way of north. Then we already achieved SDG at least within country, but most of the country we can achieve SDG thanks to the resource contribution to our country. So we by working together with these countries, we also try to support achievement of sustainable goal in developing country, and including current say global south. And yes. And this NoWNET was initiated at the time of 2003, which Japan organized Third World Water Forum. And yes, and here Tokyo, Dr. Kenzo Hiroki and our Japan Water Forum's all the first presidents. It's Mr. Hashimoto, former Prime Minister of Japan, kindly established this NoWNET network together with our Japan Water Forum, the first Secretary General, Mr. Oda. And this network was kindly established and continuously maintained thanks to the support from World Water Council, Global Water Partnership, and join the networking from these country partnerships. Finally, now we could achieve to the 20-year anniversary since the establishment. So this session is organized as a one of the anniversary event of NoWNET. And we will reflect NoWNET's 2 decades of achievement and presenting the way of our networking to solve the issue and sharing experience and showcase and for how water partnership across various nations contributes sustainable development or whatever for integrated water resource management says from upper to lower Beijing, including sea. And now, we turn on to the 20 years, but we now need to move on to also look for future. So we embark on, and explore new strategic direction of NoWNET. And as a objective, this session will consider the future opportunity for enhancing the influence of water partnership and network among diverse stakeholders, aiming to accelerate across progress towards SDG and beyond SDG. And the participants here and also online will engage in a feasible dialogue. We wanted to have a more interactive discussion, and as a partner, for promoting participation approach designed to foster open discussion among diverse stakeholders, including youth. I'm very, very happy a lot of youth here are kindly joining with us. Thank you. And yes, and this interactive format will allow for exchange of ideas, experience, and best practice, as well as critical examination of the challenge and opportunity facing water partnership like NoWNET. And together, we will explore how NoWNET can contribute to evolve and strengthen its impact in years ahead. So now we would like to invite Mr. Loic Forson, President of World Water Council. He is kindly delivering a distinguished opening speech through video. So thank you.
Dear friends of water, dear friends, it's a great honor to be invited to speak before you today to celebrate the 20th anniversary of NoWNET. Thank you for allowing me to share some insights about the future of water and make some proposals as a contribution to the future policy orientations of the network. The World Water Council is one of the founding members of NoWNET, a valuable network which aims to catalyze collective action based on real cooperation to promote water security. Dear friends, indeed, water security is one of the more significant issues regarding the existence of humanity. And as you all know, without clean water, life on Earth is not possible. Cooperation and collaboration between countries, basins, local authorities and regions is not an option. Water is politics and cooperation is often started, developed, or emphasized by political will. Cooperation and collaboration is also the main tool to strengthen the 3 pillars of the House of Water: innovation, governance, and financing. So, how to secure water and sanitation for all? How to secure access to clean water for humans and nature? How to secure sustainable and equitable development and peace for the planet? And how to collaborate and share knowledge together in a better way? If we look at the situation of the world, it's getting worse. We have recently experienced one of the biggest pandemics of the last century. Pollutions are threatening water and air. Demography is accelerating the consequences of droughts and floods. Not only water, but food and energy are also becoming increasingly scarce for an important part of planet's people. The world cannot achieve water sustainability without food security, development, health, and education for all. Since we are talking about future cooperation, we need to better understand the connections between supplying enough food, meeting rising energy needs, securing the right amount of water, and strengthening our education system. There's also the necessity to include the environmental approach as a balance between demographic growth and the need to protect nature. Consequently, to develop and protect nature, we need to collaborate with mutual respect and find a sustainable balance between the use of our increasingly coveted natural resources and the need to protect them. At global and local scale, our lives depend on the availability of water. If we fail to manage its availability, we condemn entire populations to being excluded from development and equitable enjoyment of fundamental human rights. Collectively and individually, collaborating and cooperating on all these issues at the same time is our responsibility. I would also like to add that I am not pessimistic. Research and innovation are fundamental to achieve all this. We can rely on human engineering and the ability to constantly innovate and come up with new solutions. This begins with technical solutions. In the future, we'll need to drill safely for water more deeply, transport it over longer distances, store it for longer, and purify it more efficiently. Our priority is to promote new, cheaper, and more concrete and advanced solutions, such as a wider use of desalination and wastewater reuse. Technological innovation will enable us to speed up to the progress of new, smarter, more efficient, more environment-friendly, more sustainable, and fairer solutions. Digital innovation should also bring a better future for water security. For example, digital technologies range from sensors, remote controls, leak detection, weather forecasts, data processing, augmented reality, process optimization. But all the technological and digital solutions will be a real progress only if they are respectful of basin water sharing, ecosystems protection, and nature conservation. We can only meet these challenges by leveraging the best science and data, sharing knowledge, and working closely with governments, communities, non-governmental organizations, academic sectors, and the private sector. To improve efficiency, we also need to go beyond the concept of integrated water resource management, which is a vertical approach to the short water cycle. It needs to be combined with an horizontal approach based on the fundamental links that I have mentioned before between water, energy, food, health, and education by applying the Five Fingers Alliance concept. Dear friends of water, let us be an example to the world through our solutions and our worldwide collaboration. Let us all come together and implement responses for our world, our younger generations, and for our poorest populations. It's essential for peace for prosperity, for justice, and for dignity. Thank you for your attention.
In Kyoto, in Japan, provided an opportunity to address this imbalance. So, the simple idea of the northern, closer to it. The simple idea of that network was to say, well, we have the Global Water Partnership in the south, we have no similar mechanism in the north, and therefore no mechanism to really exchange experiences north-south. And realizing that the North had plenty of water problems, that the North had a long experience and a lot to share, realizing that the Northern experiences were not easily accessed by the South, we thought that we needed such a Northern water network. So that was sort of the basic idea. The idea started at Rio Plus 10 in Johannesburg, where there were these type 2 partnerships. And then we launched it, as Yumiko also said, in Kyoto in 2003. It was signed by the chair of the Third World Water Forum Steering Committee. That was Hashimoto, the former Prime Minister of Japan. The council president was Abu Zaid, water minister from Egypt, and the GWP chair was Maggie. Everybody knows her as Maggie, Margaret Catley Carlson. But it was then relaunched in Kyoto the year later, and then the outreach really started from there. The launching partners back then, 20 years ago, were the Netherlands, Australian. When we said North, it was also Australia, New Zealand. The Danes, Japan Water Forum, Swedish Water House, which is still Swedish Water House, GWP and the Council. And Korea were sort of getting in there with Korea Water Forum. SD was a French organization, later becoming French Water Partnership, was beginning to talk with us. And we tried to talk to the European Water Partnership that was formed at that time, the UK, US, and Canada. That is the situation 20 years back. What kind of partnerships? Well, you, Mikko, already said, and I'm using the slide from that time. A Danish Water Forum in the middle, it should be NoWNET. But I mean, it is these, as Luik also, all these stakeholders, the government, the private sector, NGO, and so forth, multi-stakeholder, multi-sector, and focusing on the international. But I must say that at that time, it was water people talking to water people. It was a water sector. It was 20 years ago, very water-centric. The overall objectives of NoWNET at the time was to mobilize northern countries to promote, facilitate, and share good water development and management practices. This is our language from the time. And we should do that by creating partnership for knowledge exchange, by enhancing the northern dimension, linking to the south, and then linking to global events, like the World Water Forums, for example. And what happened was that we tried to do that, and we had then the Japan Water Forum as the secretariat for this exercise, and still do, Yumiko. We had the TWP with a special role of the networking and exchange between North and South, and again the Council that also every 3 years we had the World Water Forums with the Council. So that was the setup. We took it from Kyoto to Tokyo the year after. We engaged with the World Water Forum in Mexico by contributing to actions for that one, by having in fact, the European regional process was run by NoWNET for Mexico. And later on in Stockholm in 2005, we tried to raise the issue of RWM in the north. So those were some of the first things we did, and the NoWNET websites, saw its beginning at that time. So that is the beginning. That's the story. That's how we started and what we did. Okay, but this is my last slide, because everybody knows that that world was not the world we have today. I mean, we heard Luik's with the broad brush, they looked something like that at that time, but not exactly. And just 3 things that are really changed. At that time, we talked about North and South. North were industrialized countries, smart people with the money and the technology. The South were the poor countries that needed that. That was the concept we had from North and South. Now, we don't do that anymore. We have a totally different world order, right? I mean, we see southern countries, we see China, we see India taking the lead. There's no North-South division in that sense, as there was that time. So we have a different language and different ways of collaborating, right? We were, as I said, very water-centric. I mean, we talked about the water sector, we talked to each other in water meetings. It was very difficult to engage other sectors. And it still is, in fact. I chaired the SPC for Water Week for 10 years. We tried and tried and tried to get other sectors to come to the water event. It's difficult. It takes a lot of effort. But it's happening now, because now we see that water is running across the SDG agenda. Half of the targets of the SDG are strongly depending on water. So we cannot afford to look at water within a water community. We have to walk across. We didn't do that in 2003. At the time, and I know I disagree a little bit with Kenzo, because we talked about climate in 2003, yes, but nothing at the scale of now. I mean, today, we are fighting to rescue our planet, right? And our agenda for climate change and biodiversity is totally different from what it was at that time. So the world has changed in 20 years, and NoWNET has changed with it. And I'm sure we will hear that now from NoWNET partners, that how NoWNET has changed with it. And I'm confident that NoWNET in the future will continue to do that. So I thank you for the opportunity to tell a little bit of history and congratulate NoWNET for 20 years of existence and wish NoWNET all the best. And let me just, before I leave the floor, ask Kenzo to stand up, because Kenzo, please stand up. Kenzo Hiroki is, I don't know what title you use, but in my mind, you are Mr. Water of Japan, right? So Kenzo could have made this presentation instead of me, because we did that together. We are guilty together. And I don't know, Yumiko, if Kenzo can have just a few minutes to add to what I said and correct me, as he usually does. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tokyo. First of all, my heartfelt congratulations to all of you to make this NoWNET to what it is today, from the small network. And then I'm quite glad that I ganged up with Tokyo when in 2003 we created that. And the only contribution I made to this network was to create this name, NoWNET. And my contribution ends there. But if I have something to add to what Tokyo has already explained, is the one objective of this NoWNET. That was to empower private sector and non-governmental sector in this water arena. At the time in the 2003 and 2004, the water sector, and still now, has been a predominantly public sector. It still is. Even for the North-South relations, the taxpayers' money, knowledges, data are funneled into the government of the North and carried to the South and for distribution. There's not much for the private sector to do. But we thought, Tokyo and I thought, that it is wrong 20 years back. And then now, in the other sectors like IT and also, SNS, our agreement was right. Private sector has more power than public sector, and it's happening. So we saw that this NoWNET is a network to empower non-governmental and private sectors in the water arena. And this is also true for within the organization. In some organizations and companies, water is a small department, even in the United Nations. And our objective is through this small network, we can empower water people within a big organization. So we think still that this NoWNET is growing. And one idea to raise the profile of NoWNET is to organize a summit of NoWNET. You have each of the networks, like Japan Water Forum, Danish Water Partnership, has its own chapeau. And even you can add more chapeaus, high people. Then if you organize the summit of those people, the president, former prime ministers, and even the CEO of their company can get together, if not in person, virtually. Then it will create the high profile of network. And then you can put in your business card that you are a proud member of NoWNET. And then by doing so, you can talk to the people which you may not be able to. That is the one thing network, this NoWNET can do to all the members. This is important because this voice of the private sectors in the water sector has to be heard by the decision makers and eventually my desire is for you to become part of the decision making rather than influence the decision makers. That is what we thought ambitiously 20 years back. You can do that. And we need for that a few things, but first of all is that we need a stronger secretariat, proactive and agile. And those things you can discuss maybe tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, so that how you can create a stronger and agile secretariat. And the last thing is that, this is 20 years anniversary. If you look back and compare 20 years back, NoWNET 20 years back and 20 years back currently, what was the difference? Okay, there was a growth. But if you continue business as usual, after 20 years from now, the progress is as much as we had 20 years back. So we have to use this 20-year anniversary as a springboard year. You have to jump over to creative, transformative network of the networks. That is what we wanted 20 years back. And now we have your organization, your networks, has already a great potential coming to the reality in this IT age. So today, in this discussion, I hope that you have more creative idea, more energy, more commitment, so that this NoWNET will become a leading organization for the decision making in 20 years from now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for Dr. Toki and Dr. Kenzo for delivering your very, very strong key message to us. And it is huge message for us. And we really need to succeed your motivation. And the time you established, and you also kindly contribute to us through your feedback in accordance with current situation. And initially NoWNET also try to work collaboratively among 11 partner organizations to support water issue in South, but some times that's also challenging to work together in terms of specific issue in South in global collaborative manner. But we ourselves try to learn how they establish public and private partnership to solve the issue on the ground in developing country through the lesson learned, good and bad experience from our countries. So we try to create and support enabling environment for multi-stakeholder in our country, particularly private sector, to plan and implement the measure to enhance a kind of integrated water resource management. And at the time of establishment of NoWNET, probably integrated water resource management is one government-oriented, then non-government organization support activity for governments. But now the situation is very, very changed. Now even this kind of non-governmental organization can work together with government organization and private sector through the various support from these organizations, together with scientific advice from university and research institute. And we have then we try to seek the synergy and trade-off for enhancing the co-benefit for addressing issue on the ground, but also the co-benefit among organizations. So now, lots of our country partnership are doing lots of multi-stakeholders collaboration, not only private sector but also youth. Youth involvement is also new feature of our country membership. So now I would like to move past the role to conduct feasible conversation with you to enhance the role of multi-stakeholders partnership to address the issue of to achieve sustainable development goal by 2030 and beyond. So now I would like to invite Manuel from Program Officer of OCB. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As someone who is only 7 years older than NoWNET itself, it's an incredible honor to be moderating today's panel and interactive session, which we'll have in a fishbowl format, for which we also have this very special setup of chairs. And the design behind the fishbowl conversation is just to reduce the distinction between the expert speakers as well as the audience. So therefore, I will quickly go through the rules and why we have this set up the way it is. So we will have 4 spotlight speakers who will join us in the center with the 5 chairs here. They may do a maximum of 3 interventions. So their spotlight includes one of these interventions, and every other speaker may join the circle once they are concluded for 2 interventions. We will have 5 chairs, of course, for our 4 spotlight speakers, but also one for Michelle from the Swiss Water Partnership, who is thankfully moderating our online participants. As soon as one speaker leaves, anyone from the audience, so really anyone, and I encourage you all to join us, may take up a seat and proceed with their 2 interventions. So now I will hand over to our spotlights, which are examples of how NoWNET member partnerships, as well as the individual members themselves, advance progress on the water-related SDGs. So I would now like to invite to the middle Dr. George Weinaina, who is a knowledge broker at the EAWAG SANDEC, a member of the Swiss Water Partnership and the Swiss Research Institute, Water Research Institute. I would also like to invite Geoffrey Lapilis, Program Officer for Water and Climate at the French Water Partnership, Dr. Topi Helle, from Managing Director for the Finnish Water Forum, as well as Rick Elmendorp, Director and Chair of the Netherlands Water Partnership. And I will directly hand over to Dr. George Weinaina for his presentation. And let me just, for his presentation, thank you so much.
Is it working? Yes. So thanks for this opportunity. My name is George Weinaina. I work at EAWAG SANDEC department, which is part of the Swiss Water Partnership, and Swiss Water Partnership is part of NoWNET as a member. So I'm going to highlight very quickly a partnership that we are establishing in Kenya through the knowledge brokerage arm of SANDEC. And the idea here is to learn that we have other borders beyond physical geography borders, but also we have discipline borders and other types of borders. The idea is to ensure that we have localized partnerships that solve actual local problems with what we have. And when you look at Kenya, everything often works separately. You have those who are practicing, the NGOs, the water utilities, separate from those who are doing research, and separate from those who are funding. Most of the time, they don't talk to each other so much. So this partnership, we want to make these people talk to each other and make solutions that actually work for the context they are in a very localized manner. So quickly, Pray for Wash stands for practice, research, and funding. And it is a collaboration which is promoting research and practice and funding that solves localized problems. Generally, we have realized that we have a lot of disjointed activities taking place, a lot of research which ends up in shelves in our universities, and it is never taken up by practice, and a lot of practitioners who are doing a lot of pilots, and these are not recorded very well, and the learnings are not taken up often, and sometimes when they are funded, they both get funding from the same location, but then there's no synergy among the three. So the whole idea of this is to join these three at the moment, and we realize that collaboration is one of the key things here, which is very difficult to to actually bring about within these three because of a number of reasons. One of them is that sometimes the time scopes are very different for each of these activities, the funding activities, the practice activities, the projects, the timelines are very different, and sometimes they don't work together. And I think, yeah, this is, oh, sorry, how do I go back? Okay. Yeah, sorry, and over time, when these timelines are different and the actors are using their own ideas from the point of view that they are seeing the problem, then you have a lot of disjointed activities. And it's very clear that any funding that does not link the three is usually going to waste ones in a while. So what we set to do is to look for who can be the facilitators of collaboration among the three. And often it's not very clear because in the private sector, you have a very clear research and development department. So you have people really doing research and engaging with academia and research. However, in the WASH sector, you often, in an NGO, you have a monitoring and evaluation officer. Sometimes there's learning in it, but this does not always link to the research side of things. So you are left, and in the water utilities in Kenya, often you don't even have a research person in that space. Then in the funding space, you have the portfolio and grant managers who are not necessarily equipped with research skills to understand what is happening in the sector in the side of research, but they're the ones who are probably well placed to bring this up. On the research side, that's where you have people like me who are knowledge brokers who try to break down the information to usable pieces for the people in practice. And these are the people who can actually link these boundaries to bring about cooperation and collaboration. Of course, it's not easy because number one, of language. People speak different languages. The people in finance will talk about bankability of projects, creditworthiness and all that. But the people in the NGO will be talking about nature-based solutions and other things. In the utilities, non-revenue water and LW, have a lot of abbreviations moving around in the sector from different angles. And sometimes they don't understand each other. They could be speaking about the same thing, don't understand each other. Sometimes you don't have the will to collaborate because it also takes time, and sometimes you don't even have the budget. But now moving on to the actual example here of what we are doing in Kenya, we have one utility that we have taken up as a pilot, which is in a city called Nakuru, and it services the Nakuru, gives them the water and sanitation services in Nakuru. And we have teamed up with a utility. In the Kenyan context, you have 89 of these utilities. So this is just one of them, but we have teamed up with the universities around them, also with Water, Sanitation and the Urban Poor, which is an NGO, and also the Water Fund, which is the government's arm which funds certain activities in Kenya. And the idea is to have a national outlook such that this one pilot utility can be able to also train the others on how to come up with things like research agendas for the utility itself, such that if someone comes from, let's say, the Netherlands to do research in that utility, they find a research agenda there that they can follow, and they do not come with their curiosity in the utility and not necessarily solve the problem of the utility. So that's the whole idea of having the utility come up with a research agenda. So these are the current stakeholders that we have, and Sandek Yawag, where I sit, I just convene, and I have a timeline. I'm going to leave exactly when it takes up. I don't want to stay there forever. Then some milestone, we have a collaboration framework in place within 6 months so far. A research agenda for the utilities already developed. We have several avenues for funding that are coming up, and we are targeting to enroll several projects currently within this outfit. And definitely we welcome anybody who would be interested to also participate in this in any way that they can be able to support. So thank you very much. If you'd like to get in touch.
Thank you so much. And with that, I will quickly pass on to spotlight number 2, to Geoffrey Lapillus for the French Water Partnership.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm working with the French Water Partnership on water and climate program. Maybe a little bit of introduction of the French Water Partnership, or FWP. So we were born around 2007. We are association, membership association, which gather all water stakeholders in France, be they private, public, or NGOs. Actually, we have several a typology of members. So we have the national government, national agencies, we have local authorities, we have the private sector, we have NGOs, we have research institutes, and we have individual experts. And our main missions are, the first one is advocacy, international advocacy. The second one is international exchanges of knowledge. And the third one would be the promotion of the French know-how in terms of water management. We also work on several topics, not only water or WASH, but also climate, biodiversity, NBS, agroecology, water for SDGs, for all SDGs, and also WASH in the context of humanitarian crisis. So, as was said before, it's all clear now that for all of us that water is a cross-cutting issue, and it's like a key element to reach all SDGs targets. And with that, over the last 2 years, basically what we've been trying to do with the French Water Partnership in France is like to reach out to other sectors that can help us strengthen our advocacy on water. So we have a few examples of a few different examples of the organizations we reached and of the organization we now work with. So first we have for instance, the French Solid Waste Partnership, which was created last year, and it's kind of like a copy of the French Water Partnership in its way of working, and so with the French Solid Waste Partnership, we try to identify synergies for working together, and especially on sanitation issues, and also on influencing the current global plastics negotiations. So we identified synergies. We also have members in common, which allowed us to make a stronger case for our common advocacy. We also have the collaboration with the French Partnership for Cities and Territories. That was like kind of an organization that grew side to side with the French Water Partnership over the last decade. And so basically within urban context, water as well as solid waste and all essential services are key for solving problems. So we partner up with them, and especially like bringing a water advocacy in the World Urban Forums. The next one being in a couple of months in Egypt. And the third sector and organization we partnered up with over the last 2 years is the French chapter of the World Energy Council. So this time on energy, water energy nexus, and basically we have been working with them to identify how we can work with their members to mainstream water into the energy talks, and also linking it to advocacy on the World Energy Forum. So with these examples, we see that if we see water as a cross-cutting issue, we can also see like our partnerships as cross-cutting, and to conclude, it might be something for NoWNET that we want to translate, develop at the international level over the next 20 years of the existence of the network. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Geoffrey, and also great to hear that we're not just preaching to the choir of already water people. And with that, for our third speaker, I would like now to invite Dr. Topi Helle of the Finnish Water Partnership to give his presentation.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. Finnish Water Forum was founded 2009, and we present the Finnish water sector, both public and private sector. And the idea was to get these sectors also involved in Finnish foreign cooperation projects. We have several expertises which we can work together in foreign cooperation projects. And why Finland? We have been ranked quite high in several statistics. Some of them are that we are not the only one who is number one. It means that there's a group of countries who are number one. So don't be surprised if you are not there. You might be. We are just more countries as number one. What we are talking here today is a spring project. There is a European Union Horizon project funded. It's also funded by India. There were 7 projects. They are research projects. And the target was developing biooxidation systems and real-time monitoring tools for treatment of polluted water bodies in India. This was a technical project. We had there a work package to build a similar organization as Finnish Water Forum to India, what we call Indo-Nordic Water Forum. As Finnish Water Forum target is to solve water challenges globally. With this Indo-Nordic Water Forum, the challenge is to do that in India. And the idea was to get Indian public and private sector involved in these projects, because very often we have research projects where we have good technical solutions, but then they are not really implemented. The idea was that we try to have, after this research project, Indo-Nordic Water Forum, which can help to implement solutions. And it seems to be that we have been quite successful, and today we have over 75 members in Indo-Nordic Water Forum, and we also have several actions had in India. We have printed media, some, and then we have web pages, and we have had 2 conferences in New Delhi, and we have been able to have also not just our sister organizations from Nordic countries, but also the embassies in India from the Nordic countries are supporting our action. So in our opinion, this has been a very good success. And if you have any questions regarding my presentation afterwards, you can visit our booth or write later email to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And for our last spotlight then, to the Netherlands Water Partnership, Hendrik Elmendorp.
Thank you. I believe there's a slide as well. Let's see. And I think I'd rather stand here so I can see you all. That's it. Now go straight to the end. My name is Rick Elmendorp. I'm director and chair of the Netherlands Water Partnership. And what I've heard so far is very recognizable. If you look at the Netherlands Water Partnership, we turned 25 this year. We turned 25 this year, and we started at the first World Water Forum in Marrakesh. At the World Water Forum, the private sector and the Dutch government came together and came to the realization that there was a need of more collaboration within the sector, and there was a need for a joint effort to make a difference as a water sector. And I think for all the water partnerships, the start is quite similar to ours. So 2 years later, the Netherlands Water Partnership was founded. And you see that we, over the course of 25 years, in the core we haven't changed, but the context has changed. And we've evolved together with our partners over the course of 25 years. And at the start of the partnership, we focused specifically on connecting the sector itself. So connecting the sector itself because there was no collaboration yet. Over the years, we've evolved towards making an impact abroad. So taking the sector that has collaborated in the first few years and making an impact worldwide. And you see the last couple of years, then it was said by the water partnerships and by Turkey as well, you see that over the years that the challenges we face as a world become more complex. And the ask of the water partnerships is becoming more broad than just the water sector. It's more than just connecting private to public. It's more than just connecting to a local party. It's connecting throughout generations, for example. The North and the South, there's not a clear line anymore. We learn from each other. And there's cross-sectoral collaboration, of course. And in this collaboration, throughout all these different stakeholders, water partnerships have a key role to play. Water partnerships are unique in the sense that they represent the entire sector. That is unique in itself. They provide the sector a voice and subsectors a voice as well. So if you have, for example, if we have a subsector NGOs, one NGO can say something, but if you ask 25 NGOs to say something, it's much stronger. And if an entire sector says something, it's even stronger. So that's a key role that the water partnerships play. And there is the role of we are relatively neutral. We talk on behalf of the sector, not on behalf of ourselves. And that provides us the opportunity to also speak on behalf of the sector, but also execute programs for the sector, for the government as well. And if you look at those programs, cross-sectoral programs in this sense, the NWP, Netherlands Water Partnerships, works, for example, on Water for Food. The Water for Food program is a program in which we promote and support projects in the field of the water and food nexus. We have the saline water and food systems network. It's a network we set up to promote saline agriculture and the role of water in it. And we have the YEP program, on which we have a session this Wednesday. And in the YEP program, the Young Expert program, we train young professionals in the field of water, but also in the field of agriculture, but also and also in the field of energy. So if you look at water partnerships as a whole and the Netherlands Water Partnership as well, you see that we have a key role to play in the challenges we face as a sector and as a world. And even though in our core we haven't changed, we've evolved along with it, and NoWNET will evolve along with it as well. Thank you.
And with that, our sort of more formal part is concluded, and I would also like Michelle to join us here in the circle as representative of the online participants. And now to the fishbowl conversation itself. I, of course, hope that the presentations we heard have already inspired some interventions among our first group of 5 speakers. And if not, I will simply follow up with a quick prompt. So if anyone already has something to raise, happy to do so. Well, then I will simply follow up with potentially one of the biggest questions we have, what is in your experience, both good and bad, what is your experience with collective action in member partnerships such as NoWNET, so the partnerships of partnerships? Any takers? Thank you so much.
Well, I think there's a lot of parallels. You've heard so far, there are a lot of parallels. And I think the challenge is that we are country partnerships. So we focus on our country. But there's a lot to learn as well. And with, for example, the Danish Water Partnership, we've had a collaboration just last year in which we learned from each other and we can complement each other's efforts. Because also, if you look at the knowledge we have as the Netherlands, we are not all-knowing. And the same goes for the other water partnerships. And I think together we can do a lot more. And I think that actually all water partnership then should work together to create a collective effort in the challenges that become more and more complex.
Any respondents?
And yeah, maybe to add to that, so we have the national water partnerships, we have NoWNET, the networks of networks, and also we have other international networks and coalitions on policy topics, and for instance the Water for Climate Coalition at COPs and within the UNFCCC processes, and so I think it's strong that we can be coordinated through NoWNET, so we can have like a common shared messages to put forward in those kind of international coalition, and the fact that ourselves at organization level we're gathering so many stakeholders and have this neutrality of like expressing a whole sector ideas makes our positioning within those international coalitions stronger.
Yes, thank you. I would like to add that for us it's been useful to have this network, that very often the challenges are so big in water sector that we cannot handle alone, and then this is a good network to ask some help and more companies to join our project or research institute. So this is also a very valuable asset.
From a perspective of a member of a network, of another supra network, I would say for us it's anchorage, finding a point of anchorage to a network which is also involved in another bigger network, and there are opportunities that can come out of this also in amplifying messages. I think often the challenges, and I think this is at all the levels, is how to collaborate and how to structure this in the whole organization of the networks, and making sure that you're not duplicating roles or you're becoming more effective and efficient. So it's really a collaboration and coordination problem from my perspective.
Thank you. And of course also the reminder that you don't have to stay for 2 interventions. You may give up your chair at any given moment so that someone from the audience might want to join. Of course. Thank you so much, Geoffrey. So if anyone, the seat is up for grabs and up for interventions, so feel free. Yes, thank you. But I think we have a question online first.
Hi everyone. I'm Michelle, but I'm right now just reading out what statements from our online participants, kind of being their voice. We have one statement by Jesper from the Danish Water Forum. He is saying that he thinks the NoWNET is a very good vehicle to distribute information among the partners, and especially if it's not a competition issue. So he's saying we have to accept that outside of our own countries, like we are kind of the national water network, so focusing on our countries. But outside of our own countries, we can be competing on behalf of our members. I think especially when it's probably, that's me saying that, not him, but probably when we do like export promotion, I imagine. But he's saying, but he thinks that we have actually more in common than things that divide us. And then the Danish Water Forum has used the net to distribute, for example, innovations to training courses as an example of their activities. Jesper, I hope that represented well what you were trying to convene to everyone. And I'll hand over to Manuel again.
Thank you so much. And also thank you to Jesper. And I think we'll quickly hand on to the first audience intervention. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. My name is Jafet Onyando. I come from Kenya. I'm happy that my colleague is here. And during his presentation, I saw the logo of my university. So I'm happy that we are in collaboration in this project. I wanted to mention that I participated in the 2003 World Water Forum in Kyoto. So I was very happy to see the chronology of the various developments in IWRM. In Kenya, water sector was very active in the reforms, was the reforms of 2002, which was informed by WSSD, and IWRM was very key at that time. I wanted to say that in as much as it was said during the opening remarks by the presenter online, that IWRM is theoretical and we should be moving to the next level. I agree, but I want to say that there are certain ingredients in IWRM which can be very useful and which we are using up to date. We have moved from sectoral thinking to breaking barriers between the sectors. During that time, the water resources subsector was thinking independently of the water services subsector, but now it is totally different. Currently, we are running a project called Catchment to Tap, which is funded by the Dutch government, and we are a consortium of 5 partners. There's the World WaterNet, WWF, VEI, and KEWASNet, and us from Egerton University. And we are looking at breaking the barriers between sectors. We are also calling for collective action, and we have programs which sensitize the communities for action, including Journey for Water, whereby we interact with the issues on the ground and involve communities, the youths, the policymakers, the business community, so that we see the problems on the ground and use that to sensitize and call for action. We are complementing this with early warning systems so that various stakeholders and the beneficiaries and end users are informed in time to take action instead of waiting for response mechanisms. And then, of course, we are trying also to build knowledge, generate knowledge through research and dissemination so that people are well informed, because the issues have become more complex, especially with the impact of climate change. And we are also emphasizing precautionary principle so that we take action in advance instead of waiting for disasters to occur, like landslides, drought, and so on, so that we minimize or reduce the impact of this. We were told here in the morning that through early warning systems, you can reduce the impact by about 30% if you send out information 24 hours in advance. I want to emphasize that also to say that the IWRM of that time, we were focusing a lot on creating enabling environment through policymakers to support the programs, and we realized that that was actually not working. You will negotiate with them forever. So instead, we are actually now trying to focus more on communities to build action on the ground and put pressure on them. And we realize that if we have collective community action, then the politicians will listen, because they know their survival depends on the communities. And if they don't respond, they know they might not retain their seats in the next time. So we have moved forward. We have moved from focusing on leaders to communities and then building pressure from the ground. And that we see to be working. And that I want to say this is the direction we are taking from the context of IWRM. And IWRM is still good, but we are now trying to make it more pragmatic by involving communities on the ground and the end users of water. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just wondering if there's already a response particularly related potentially to the sort of working with partnerships, but also to the local work and particularly the groundwork, but also sort of the cross-sectoral and integrated approaches that we heard about. Thank you.
Now, if you look at cross-sectoral and integrated approach, as you mentioned, I think, and you mentioned it as well, we are still talking about sectors, of course, because it's easy to put a word on it and to identify. But talking about sectors, it still proves difficult sometimes to. Well, we're at the World Water. What is it? World Water Week. Sorry, we're at the World Water Week, and it's the emphasis is on water, and you see that it is a challenge to work together with other sectors. But once you have a collaboration, for example, as with the Netherlands Food Partnership, then it's easier to well, say tag along water is always difficult. And in the context of food, for example, or in the context of energy, there's traction. There's traction within government, within private sector financing, for example, to invest in water as well. So it's difficult, but putting in the effort together with other sector parties will prove successful in the end.
Thank you. And as it is your second intervention also, I sadly have to ask you to give up the chair, but you, of course, can rejoin. And I think we have actually a participant online who wants to directly speak through Zoom to us.
Yeah, I think we now solved one issue for the audio. So, Yeonjin Kim, you have a statement to make, and actually you can just open your microphone, and then we should be able to hear you in the room.
Thank you, Michelle. And thank you everyone for this great initiative of NoWNET. And I'm Yeonjin Kim from the World Water Council. I think due to the technical problem that might have caused, so I will just close my video and just open the mic so that I can just speak to you clearly about my question. So yeah, obviously, as you do, who are physically attending this NoWNET session today, I truly believe in our NoWNET collaboration network value in the sector of water. So I would like to ask each organization who are interested in my question how you're planning further future engagement in more in-depth communication or collaboration with the developing countries or the partners from other countries outside of our network of NoWNET. Their practices obviously could help our partnership organization be more aware of actual situation outside of our boundary of NoWNET members, as we've just mentioned. And this is just as, it's very, very equally important as our cross-sectoral collaboration under water area. So yeah, I just want to highlight that it's very valuable element for our future growth. So would there be any specific idea or the practice that you're planning or that you're executing as of moment from any of partnership organization that would really help to understand more about our further discussion for our development? Thank you.
Thank you, Topi Hele, Finnish Water Forum. We are probably more active with organizations that are not in NoWNET. We are working mostly with those countries that Finland has had foreign cooperation projects in the past. We have very close contacts with, for example, with the Vietnamese Water Utility Association, and as well with the Association for the Ukrainian Water Utilities. And furthermore, we are having contacts with in Kenya and in South Africa and Egypt. So I think that's important for us to know what is really the needs in these countries. Thank you.
Yeah, I took the chair for two purposes. One to a comment and one to question. The comment is to my friend from Kenya. Thank you. Because what was said about RWM is not true anymore. When RWM became the 5th target of SDG 6, RWM truly rose to being a cross-sectoral mechanism. RWM is not for water people. RWM is precisely linking across all the SDGs. And thank you so much for making that clarification. And that leads me to my question. Because you mentioned saline agriculture. I used to chair WASAC on water scarcity and agriculture. And we had the same problem with the agricultural community. So my question is to these partnerships today, when you look at your members, how many of those members are actually organizations that are in the energy sector, ag sector, health sector, and so forth? How many are actual members and not just people you talk with? If somebody from NoWNET takes the floor from one of these partnerships, I think that I'd really like to know that. Thank you.
Do we have anyone who could? Of course, happy to rejoin. That's the purpose, keeping it dynamic.
Thanks for the question. Yes, how many? How many? I do not know by heart, but it's a few. In comparison to the water sector representation, it's a few. And I think those few are quite active in the water and food nexus or the water and energy nexus, where we get the cross-cutting collaboration throughout sectors is mainly through other partnerships. So an energy partnership or a food partnership in which we collaborate, and they also have members. And within those two partnerships, and it has to be a really close collaboration. Otherwise, it will remain two partnerships, and you can talk to the partnerships can talk to each other, but it's about the members talking to each other, and those activities actually come into collaboration and actually come into action, creating opportunities and tackling challenges. So where we actually collaborate is with the other partnerships, and some of the partnerships are also members of our organization. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Vincent Cornelis. I'm also working for the NWP, the Netherlands Water Partnership, and specifically on the Young Experts program. Maybe to add to this as well, on the screen we see World Water Week, and I think it's my wish, let's say, for NoWNET also to participate in a, I don't know, World Food Week or World Energy Week. And also our members are not only solely focusing on water, for example, but they do projects on many different, in many different sectors. So making use of the knowledge of the NGOs or the knowledge institutes in our network is one, but also really linking with other sector companies, because sector parties or partnerships, because the challenges don't stop at borders or man-made borders and don't stop at water. Water is usually part of the challenge or part of the solution in combination with. So my wish for NoWNET, let's say for the future, if we're already at that point, is yes, let's do the World Water Week. It's important to reconnect and learn from each other, but also let's go to the World Food Weeks and the World Energy Weeks, because water there is key as well.
One more thing to that. And I think it's important for the water sector to take action. We can wait for the other sectors to come to us, but it's important for the water sector to take action. Just one example is Netherlands Water Partnership took action to create the Dutch Marine Energy Council, and that's now part of the energy sector. But we do have a link there. So it's important for us to take action.
Do we? Yep, then we have one more online intervention.
So Jesper, who I was reading for him before, but now that I'm more clear that we can have his audio here, also asked to be to have his audio connected, and he will continue talking himself without me.
Well, maybe here it comes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's a super fantastic idea to bring all these different networks together, creating a network like we have been hearing from Torkil and from others. I think there are so many places where we can actually do a lot, which will not hamper, as I said before, our competition part of it and all the different things that we may or may not have as things where we sort of stick it to ourselves. Somebody mentioned that maybe we could do something about the collaboration outside of our own network. And why don't we, for instance, collect somewhere all the different lessons learned that we all use, but maybe we have forgot to sort of pass on to others? Maybe NoWNET could have a simple library of how to handle groundwater, how to handle water loss in pipe systems, all these different things that is sort of part and parcel of our daily life, but it's certainly not maybe the part and parcels of a water supply in somewhere in the world which is not part of our network. So I think there might be some ideas which are simple, which are cheap to do, which would also increase our outreach. And one of the other things I also think that we need to do is also to increase our outreach. There are some of the bigger water partnerships in Europe that we still do not have full contact with. For instance, as far as I know, and Yumiko, you may change if I'm wrong, but I don't think that we, for instance, have the German water partnership, a big, large, powerful partnership. So there are certainly somebody that we still need to get into these groups. As I stated before in my written speech, which Michelle was kind enough to read up, I think that one of the things that I have used it for is actually to make sure that we can pass information around each other. I'm running some water conferences in Denmark where we have distributed the information to the other networks. Recently, we also looked for participants for a training course in Denmark, and we also use the network for that. So there are so many places where we can actually do more together. And the more we do together, the less we sort of spend time on fixing things ourselves, and then we can benefit from taking advantage of knowledge from others. And then that also means giving advantage to others, which I think is very important. So thank you very much for giving me the chance to speak up. And thank you for a great meeting.
Thank you, Jesper. Then I think we have another audience intervention.
Yes, not an intervention, another question. Sorry about this. From the French Water Partnership too. And I was curious about your experience as the Netherlands Water Partnership, to know if you also face one of the challenges that we face at the French Water Partnership, which is not just a question of breaking the silos between sectors. You mentioned agriculture and energy, but I was also wondering about bridging the silos between skills, and I think water partnerships have a very important role to play in this, in the sense that often the members that we have within our partnerships operate at different levels. It can be, of course, community, municipalities, cities, but we also have, we address and work here at World Water Week in a very international setting. And so we often face this issue of how do we make sure that the members of our partnerships speak the same language as in these settings. And often we see that it's very difficult to play this translation role. So I was curious if you had the same experience, and in your cases, how do you resolve this scale translation issue?
Thank you. Maybe to give an example of indeed the Netherlands Water Partnership, I think we have over 180 members, which means over 180 voices and different perspectives. But we try to find a common ground. So if we want to act on behalf of the whole member audience of us, we keep a kind of neutral theme and mutual agreeable, let's say, language. But what we do is we collect also different member parties. For example, we have an NGO platform in the Netherlands, and they speak on behalf of the NGOs, and it's powered by NWP, but not per se the opinion of the whole NWP in that sense. So if we speak on behalf of, it's more kind of neutral and things that everybody can agree with and our members. And if we talk about specific topics or member parties of our network, then we aim for their voice powered by, basically. So that's how we organize it. Yeah. Hope that's clear. Yeah.
Of course, we have also one free chair, so any other interventions, one of the last ones, welcome. Of course, join us, please.
Okay. I think we have always a challenge on this networks and forums, that the data sharing policies. I don't know if you face this and how you overcome this challenge. It's always between organizations and so on, that there is restricted data and so on. So how did you, with this all huge networks you built?
I think data sharing is, particularly in the private sector, is difficult. If you look at NGOs and knowledge institutes, the data is freely available. And that's it. If I talk about company data, are you talking about company data or are you talking about other? Okay, so how they share their data. Yeah, and then if you look at knowledge institutes and NGOs, the data is freely available, and they do want to share it because they want collaboration within the water sector. NGOs cannot act on their own. Same goes for knowledge institutes. They can create innovations, but it has to be put in practice. So they want to collaborate with the private sector. The other way around is sometimes more difficult because the private sector, they are competing with each other. And within the private sector, you have to create, well, if you want to share data, either it's a large corporation that wants to involve smaller corporations, they want to have startups join their activities. But in the cases of smaller organizations, most of the time, you have to create a safe space in which they can collaborate and learn from each other. But it has to be a safe space. That's the only, well, most of the time that's the only place where data is actually exchanged in an open way. Otherwise it will prove difficult.
Then I think we'll take one final intervention from Kenzo Hiroki.
Just a bit different subject. But in my network, different network, HELP, High-Level Expert and Leaders Panel on Water and Disaster, there are a few members, and then in the last meeting, Korea Water has started a flagship initiative titled Post-War Water Recovery in Ukraine. I thought it's a bit early, but they did some serious survey on what they can do to help the country. So if anybody, any water partnership or anybody is interested, I'll be glad to connect you to them. Just contact me or contact Yumiko there. That's it.
Thank you so much. And I think with that, we've also reached the end of our session. And I think I want to thank, of course, our spotlight speakers, but also, of course, everyone in the audience, and particularly everyone who participated with their intervention for a truly insightful session, even for me, who is a member of NoWNET, but of course, with the Swedish model, a bit of a different shape. This was highly interesting, and I think we've not only heard about the history of NoWNET, which now goes 20 years officially back, but also where we headed, what we need for the future, and particularly how we look at other sectors, how we expand our boundaries, not only when it comes to geographically, but also, of course, boundaries when it comes to waters and how we can attract other members. And I think it was also particularly interesting to hear about the experience with NoWNET across levels. So, of course, from the head level with the partnership of partnerships, from the individual partnerships, but also from individual members, what NoWNET contributes and what the value of these partnerships ultimately is. And I think it was also good to have some calls to actions. I think it was particularly good to hear that we can do more, and also that we have to create incentives to do more together. And I think there we also heard the important part of that we have different members at different scales, but also potentially in competition. And I think that is a good reminder that the incentive creation is really at the heart of these networks and partnerships, and of course also the collective action that comes with it. So all in all, I want to thank you all for a wonderful session, a wonderful informative session, and of course all your contributions. Thank you so much.